these little incremental steps throughout my journey that have helped me live this life that I get to live today. I'm still developing and creating so that it becomes even more aligned and fulfilling and hopefully useful to other people as well, the people that I want to impact in my life. But if I'd continued to allow me to live my life as to how other people perceive me or how I thought other people were perceiving me, then I would never have taken the steps.
Hi, my name is Pernilla, and this is my Challenge Your Norm podcast. I'm absolutely obsessed with anything related to personal development. And well, to grow, we got to challenge our norm. And so on this podcast, we chat about life and how we can challenge our normal way of living it to make it greater than we could have ever imagined. Just one little belief, habit, bold move, and challenge at a time.
Hello, my beautiful friend, and welcome back to another episode here on my Challenge Your Norm podcast. I believe that I was guided today to speak with you about what I have learned on my journey to creating a life that I absolutely love. Because this morning, as I was about to do my morning routine, I got this urge to reach for this box I have with all of my old journals. And it's been a long time since I've gone through and read through a few pages. And I had been thinking about wanting to do that because when I was at the Summit of Greatness last year, which is a self-development event that I went to last year and again this year, if you have listened to my past two podcast episodes, then you will, I spoke a little bit about it there, but I thought that I was going to find the journal from last year so that I could, read through some of the things that I was thinking back then a year ago. But instead, what I found was journals going far back, as in 2014 is when I believe I wrote my first ever journaling prompt. And I found that. And it was like this, I have all my journals here, not all of them. So I found my Gabrielle Bernstein little folder that I got at the beginning of this year. And it was very cool to see how far I've come since January, like what my goals were in January and how I've manifested a lot of those things today. We'll talk a little bit about that. But this journal right here, I have one journaling prompt from 2014. And it was wild to see what I wanted for my life back then. But as I was going through these different journals, I wrote down 5 things that I feel have played the biggest role in me creating the life that I live today, which for me is something that fulfills me a lot and to me makes me feel very good within. Because reading some of the things that I was going through back from 2014 as my 18, 19-year-old self, she was struggling and she didn't even know it because when we're in the midst of living our life the way that we always have, we don't know that we can feel differently, that we can act in a way or have a perspective that is different than what we currently are in because it's what we've always known, right? And I think that I have taken certain steps on my journey, as we all have, to slowly become more and more aware of these little things that don't feel good within, that feel very limiting rather than freeing to live inside of my brain, inside of my body. And then obviously, whenever we change something within, then the external world changes as well. I have my current journal right here because I wrote down the 5 things that I wanted to talk with you about on this podcast episode. And the first thing I felt very useful from this little experience of mine of going back to my old journals was just seeing how far I've come. I think as we live in our day-to-day lives, this is our current state, and we as humans adapt very quickly, and whatever we used to believe, live as, and feel can very easily be forgotten as we just go about our day-to-day. And just looking back into my journals, realizing how far I've come. And it doesn't just like make me feel, happy, like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. It's also just like this feeling of, oh wow, if I've come this far, then I can keep this growth going if I keep doing the things that have led me to where I am today. So it's almost like also a little just motivator to keep on practicing these things and keep on working on myself and keep on believing and dreaming in these massive dreams that may at this very moment of my life feel like, wow, is this really possible? Because when you look back into your old self, your old life, it's like, wow, you really made this happen either whatever it is that you believe in. For me, I feel like I actually manifested it because it was once I dared to dream about something bigger, greater. That's when somehow little situations would arise, little thoughts would pop up in my head to take action towards something. That then, all these little steps and actions and experiences led me to these little incremental steps towards the life that I get to live today. And what I really realized is that the biggest shifts in my life, like the biggest jumps that have occurred in my life, has happened when I have stepped outside of my norm, which is awesome because that's very aligned with this podcast, Challenge Your Norm. Because when I was reading my 2014 journaling goals, I didn't even know I had set goals back then, but listen to what I wanted for my life because it's so far away from the life that I live today. At that point, I had grown up in Denmark, very small country. I think we're still just 6 million people there. Maybe now it's more people, but when I was a child, it was 6 million for the entire country. And there is typically, now it's changing obviously as the whole entire world is, but one way to go about life. And that was all I knew. And when we live in one place where we've always lived with a certain mindset, certain beliefs, certain vision for what's possible for your life, that's what you grow up to believe, right? That's the only way to go about life. So back when I was in 2014, I was like 18 years old. I had written that what I wanted for my life was to, in 5 years, have a house in this city that I grew up in with my high school boyfriend that I had at this time. And I would be having one child and I would be a psychologist, which that makes sense. I'm crazy about anything mindset related as to this, that's also why this podcast exists. But I would be living that life in that hometown. I would still be teaching dance sometimes, and I would be helping people with their lives, but I wouldn't be working so much because I wanted to be like kind of like a stay-at-home mom. And so that's what I wanted at this time in my life. And then a massive shift happened when I read my first ever self-development book, which is something I've spoken about previously on my podcast. I was in the last year of my high school year, and my entire life, I just believed that I was as I was, and, that's who I was, and there was not much to do about it. In the 6 months before my high school year ended, I, for the first time, read my first self-development book, and it's called Louise Hay, Heal Your Life. And that book blew my mind because in that book, she's talking about how we create our own reality, how we can set goals. And with setting goals, we can, first of all, make them happen. And we can, with a positive mindset, an inner belief, shift our reality in this massive way. And I tried it out for the first time in my life. And I had never been good in school. But those last 6 months of high school, I guess it's only 4 months, like a semester, my grades changed dramatically. My energy changed dramatically because I also started just rollerblading and biking everywhere and teaching more dance and just having this next level energy. I remember showing up in school every morning being like, "Good morning, guys. How are we doing today?" And everyone just being like, "Oh my God, Pernilla, like, calm down." Where previously I would have been that person. I would, not have been as hyper in the morning and excited about my day. But I for the first time experienced this, like, wow, when you set a goal, you can actually make it happen. So that was a massive shift. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I did something I had never done. And that made a massive shift in my life. So I read my first self-development book, which was something I had never done. It made a massive shift in my life. Going back to me in 2014, what I wanted for my life was this stay-at-home mom life with the guy I was with at the time. I then moved to Copenhagen, move to this biggest city in my country. Again, something I had never done. With that comes new perspectives, new realizations. And at that time, I started to realize, oh, wow, maybe like I could actually pursue something in this dance world. I could, at least give it a try. And so because I moved to Copenhagen, I was surrounded by other people that were at least closer to living this dance life that I secretly maybe had wanted, but never thought was really possible to do. But because I was surrounded by that, that again shifted my perspective, and it made me realize, oh wow, maybe there's something else here for me in this life that really excites me. And that's where I then got this idea to move to Los Angeles. And when I got there, it was even more so that my perspective shifted, because I was surrounded by these people that just lived in a way that I never knew was possible. So the reason I'm sharing these little situations with you is because every time I've made a bold move, as in done something that I'd never done before, those were the times where I have had the biggest shifts externally, because first, like, that has shifted me internally. It made me widen up my perspective and realizations for life. And so the moments in my life where the massive fist, the biggest shift happened. And so it's just a great reminder for all of us that doing these things that we've never done before, regardless of how odd they may seem, should be done, because we never know if that could lead us to something bigger, better, greater than we had ever thought was possible, because we've never experienced it. We've never lived that before. And that leads me to the third point that has played a massive role into me creating the life that I get to live today, which for me feels fulfilling. And for you, something else is going to feel fulfilling, but you have to figure out what is that within your life, which I know you're already doing. It's like a never ending journey for all of us, right? I'm nowhere near done either. But it's just like this never ending journey of figuring out, how can I feel more fulfilled? How can I, live the absolute best life possible? But that is connecting with myself. And for me, also connecting with a source, higher intelligence, the universe, God, whatever you can relate to, resonate with. And the only way that I have been able to do that has been when I have given myself space, freedom for my mind to just wander. When I was in that last half year of my high school, when I read that self-development book, the reason I was willing to even pick up that book, first of all, my dad was like, you should read this. And I was like, Dad, like, I already know that stuff. Like, I'm a psychologist professional. And I'd never read a self-development book, so I really thought I had it all together. But my dad told me to read it, and I was on vacation visiting him in Australia. And so I had 3 weeks where I was like, well, maybe I should give this book a read or give it a try and see what all this fuss is about. So after having fought my dad, saying, no, Dad, I am a professional, I don't need to, which, by the way, whenever we are very stubborn about an area, something we don't want to do, oftentimes, or at least for me, that is when I need that thing the most. Our ego sometimes just can tend to get in the way, or at least mine can or could. It's something that I feel like I've definitely gotten better at. But I read this book because I had the time to, because I was in Australia for 3 weeks, and I, had the time to allow my mind to do things that it hadn't been doing in my busy life that I was living in Denmark. Again, when I moved to Copenhagen, I was a independent nanny is what they called me, because I was actually like hired by the government to take care of these kids in my own home. So I'd like made this little like children room for the children that I was nannying, which looking back, I was 19. That was pretty badass of me. And the reason I did that is because I felt like that would be it would give me so much freedom to be able to nanny these kids in my own home and do that while I was taking this dance education that I was taking at the time, instead of like, before that, I was working at a kindergarten. So it was like, set times and like working with these other psychologists that I didn't think were very nice to the kids. And so I really wanted to have my own little space where I could take care and play with these children, but they were like 1 year old. So they every day would sleep for 2 or 3 hours. And while they were sleeping, in Denmark, it's very normal to walk around while the baby is sleeping in like what's that called? Like the little walking thing you walk with while the baby's sleeping. I was walking all over Copenhagen with that, taking care of these kids. And that, like, all I was doing was walking in this beautiful Danish nature in the middle of Copenhagen. And it allowed my mind to wander. And that's during this time that I realized, like, whoa, what if I could like go to LA for 6 months and try that out? And if I had not allowed, if I'd continued working in the kindergarten and it would be on other people's schedule and I would go from the kindergarten and straight to dance education every single day, busy schedule as I always had done, I wouldn't have had that mind space to allow, whether it's my intuition, whether it's a higher source, or just like thoughts popping in my head, I wouldn't have had the space to allow those thoughts to come into my brain, to my mind, think bigger and more for what I wanted for my future. Maybe I would have just gone after that year of the dance education. Maybe I would have just gone back to O's and started this life that I had written down in 2014 that I wanted for my life. I wouldn't have tried this other thing. So it was like really because I had these few hours a day where I would just be walking in nature and allowing these thoughts, dreams come to me. And in the later years, it's like I have the biggest revolutions in my morning routine when I allow my mind to just wander and scribble in my journal. When I'm in my car, just, listening to some podcast that sparks some idea, thought in me that I then end up taking action on. When I go on walks, or just all these little times throughout my days where I've allowed my mind to wander, is when, we really can feel within what is the right move for me right now. So especially in a world with so much social media happening all over and our phones constantly beeping at us, first of all, you have to put your phone on do not disturb. Like that is a non-negotiable. Otherwise, you are going to constantly be just notified, and you will never be able to live in a present moment. And I have been caught up in this as well many, many times. And recently, I have been very, very good at, if you've listened to my podcast, you already know this, but in the beginning of the year, I bought an iPad where I only have apps on there that are like beneficial to my mental health. So I use that in the morning and at night so that I don't put my phone into my bedroom. And like right now, I haven't even looked at my phone today. It's 5 a.m. and I've just been doing my morning routine, and I had gotten back to like, yes, I had my iPad, but then like I would still check my phone, check notifications as I woke up. But what that does is it limits this free space, this peace of mind that I can be in when I allow myself to be in my own space and not be in any way, shape, or form distracted, I guess, by this all these little external things going on. Once I'm done with my morning routine, I can look at my phone. But what I've also done recently is just like go straight to do the most important task of the day, like get it done. Because when I'm in this space of like not having looked at my phone, the notifications, I'm way clearer in my mind. I'm way more focused whenever I don't need my phone to be like posting, or I'll leave it in the kitchen, because otherwise it's like I'll be half as productive because there'll constantly be something that I'll want to look at on my phone, which just keeps me away from getting the things done that I really want to get done in that day. And it's just all just distractions. So just a massive reminder for all of us to allow ourselves to have these times in our day where we are not distracted, where we get to connect with ourself, our intuition, the higher power, because those are the times when we will connect with what's important, what the next steps are, and maybe get these urges to take these action steps that may, again, not make sense in the moment, but that eventually, with multiple action steps in that direction, lead us to something really great. And so just a little reminder to prioritize that. We don't want to be sucked into autopilot notification land. We want to be able to see the whole point of why I started this entire podcast in the first place. I have 2 things left here on my journal, and I think I'm going to start with sharing, just because it's very much in alignment with everything else I've spoken about, is the importance of setting goals. I, for the first time, set those goals when I read that first self-development book. And since then, I have been writing down my goals, and just looking back at this January challenge that I did from Gabrielle Bernstein that I showed you in the beginning of this episode, if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, I set some goals. For one, we also spoke about that on my previous episode, but I wrote that down in my January goals as well, creating a community of like-minded individuals. And it's just something that I feel so grateful to have created today. Reading through my journals, I set many goals that I today have, like creating this podcast. That was a goal of mine that I really wanted. Creating my YouTube channel to make really good YouTube videos is something that I wanted for so long and that I made happen, as well as my just daily life that I get to live today is very much like how like the goals I'd set for myself. Like I get to wake up and create every day and hopefully inspire some people listening, watching on the content that I create. And it's just beautiful how when we set a goal, things just tend to align. And reading through these goals that I'd set throughout my life, the cool thing is that many things have come to life. But something that I've been writing in the last few years is that I want to gain 1 million subscribers. And you can think that's like a superficial goal, or it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what you think. We all have our own rights to, I guess, judge other people for what they want. But for me, there's a lot of things that are associated by that goal of mine because I believe that it is a way for me to have an incredible impact in people's lives while having just a lot of fun doing it. And it will give me freedom, and freedom is a massive value of mine. So that has been a goal of mine for a long, long time, many years, and it hasn't come to fruition right now. And I've learned so many lessons during the time of pursuing this dream, and it still hasn't happened, and it's, not even progressed for a while. But I feel like there's a reason that it hasn't happened. And I can now see why like all these other things happen in my life the way in the time frame that they did. And looking back now, I'm grateful for it. And I also know that there's a reason why I haven't reached that goal yet, but also reminding myself that I've set all these other goals that have come to life in the right time, in the right way, with all the lessons that I had to learn before that goal coming into fruition. It's just like very calming knowing that the reason that this hasn't happened yet is because I still have so many lessons to learn. I recorded and worked so hard on this YouTube video that I recently put out about me living the ancestral lifestyle for 100 days. It had been just a struggle of a long time to put together, and I couldn't find the right story behind it. And how do I put this into a positive light so that it doesn't make people judge the people who live in this way, but more so like, learn something from it. And it had just been the biggest hassle. And I was like, this video is going to go crazy. People are going to love it. It's going to be amazing. And it was literally the worst performing video that I have put out. It obviously can still change. YouTube algorithm is very different in that way than other platforms, but it's just so incredible how we think one thing and then we realize, okay, so after I put this out, I was like, first of all, the process of me creating this video actually wasn't fun. It was a lot of hard work, where the videos where it just feels flowy, it feels like this is just spot on, this is easy, or it not easy. It's often like there's always a challenge, like there's resistance often whenever I put something out that feels right. There's always like this little bump, but there's also this flow. And putting out this video that I put so much more effort into than many other videos that I've done better or well, or people have enjoyed more, I guess. It's more, the other videos that I've done well are more aligned with, first of all, what feels good to me, what I want long term for my videos to be, more so like just following my journey throughout it, some sort of transformation, or just like going throughout my day to share my habits, the rituals that make me happy, so that it can inspire others maybe to incorporate some of these habits. So it's just beautiful. The lessons that I'm learning on this journey towards reaching this 1 million subscribers is because I'm more and more finding myself. In December of 2022, I was like, I'm going to make a 30-day challenge where every day I challenge myself to do something new that I've never tried. And every day I put out this little like short reel, TikTok, YouTube short. And that again felt so hard. And a lot of people, my audience, like, that's not what they wanted from me. And I also, like, that's not necessarily, there was just something that didn't feel aligned when I was doing that. And it's just like, all these little lessons that we learn from experimenting and try out new things, they're just essential Because if we just reach our goal right away, which sometimes have happened, I've set an intention, a goal, and then it just like happens right away. I think that's when it's like just meant for me to, I'm ready for it. It's meant to happen right here and right then. But when years go by where we're not seeing these results, if we can see all these like little humps in the way of just learning lessons so that we are prepared and so that we're set up for better success, like a more joyful experience when the goal does happen, I think is beautiful. And I don't know if you needed this reminder in case you're going towards a goal right now and it's not happening in the time frame that you want. Just a reminder that it will happen when you are ready for it and just like enjoying all these little journeys that we are put through as we go about going about achieving the goal. But going back to the fourth thing I learned from looking back at my journals was just to set goals. I don't know if you need a little reminder to set goals. I actually like to write down my goals. I don't always do it daily, but I like to set goals very frequently. And I'll write, like, I'll know my goals. So I'll just like write down the same thing. Something else that I'm doing this month is I wrote a scripting letter where I wrote down 4 things that I wanted for my life. And each goal, you can say, has like 2 different sentences. The first one goes like, I am grateful now that I blah, 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 blah. And then afterwards, it's I feel so blah, 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 blah now that I have received this. So it's like the first one is like, I'm so grateful now that I have whatever it is that you want. Maybe you want to attract love into your life. I'm so grateful now that I have found the partner of my dreams. And then maybe you want to add some more. And then afterwards, you write how that makes you feel. It makes me feel so, I don't know how that makes you feel, but like something that it makes you feel, I feel so joyful now that we get to go grab our morning coffees together every morning, and it frees me, I don't know, just come up with your sentences, and then you are supposed to read it every night before you go to bed and every morning when you wake up. But I've just been reading it every morning when I wake up, which me saying that out loud is making me again set the intention to also read it at night, but I just get so tired at night, so I'm just like, let me go to bed. That's a bad excuse. It's good when we can call ourselves out, right? The last thing that I want to share that I realized, which actually is the deepest thing from reading my journals, is how much I was suffering. And I briefly spoke about this, that we only know what it feels like to live within the reality that we're living in because it's what we've always experienced. But during this time of my life, I was my entire focus was on what other people thought of me. It was wanting to do really well in school so that my both grandparents and parents could be proud of me, and knowing that getting good grades was never really something I cared about, but something that I wanted to make other people proud of me for. I was in pain because I was in the midst of still having a lot of pain when it came to my parents' divorce. Not their divorce in itself, but they were in courts for many, many years after they got divorced. So I was like 12 when they got divorced, and they were fighting in courts for many different things till my youngest brother turned, I believe, 18. Or maybe it stopped when he was 16 because like one of them won the battle, or what you can say, the final battle. But I was really struggling because I wanted to make both of them happy. And that was very difficult because they were struggling so much, both of them being in this. And so being in the middle of that and wanting to make both of them happy was not easy. And the big pleaser in me, that was very hard for her. Knowing what I know today, I know how I could have handled it differently and really not even be willing to actually enter that. I would be able today to take distance from it in the way that I could support them in whatever they needed from me, but not go into the battle, right? There's this like drama triangle that they talk about in psychology. It's like you're either I know it from I know what it's called in Danish, but the English translation for me, I don't know if I have that down. I may make some words up just so you can understand. So there's like the person trying to solve the issue, but she goes into the battle. So it's not like looking at it from a higher perspective kind of solve. It's like the wanting to make everything better. So she goes in and tries to fix everything. Oh, the fixer, I think, is a good word to to use. Then there is the victim. Oh, all of this bad stuff is happening to me. And then there is the person, let's call it the blamer, or the dominant one, that's like the person dominating. I wish I could say the right words, but those are the three people. And so, my mom and dad would switch between the victim and the dominator, and then I would try to be the fixer. And you will stay in this drama triangle as long as you're in the triangle, as long as you're one of these three. And there's no better or worse being, like, it's just as bad being the fixer as it is to be the victim, as it is to be the dominator. And knowing what I know today, I would have stepped outside of this drama triangle and support, but not enter the battle, right? So I would enter the battle, and that left me with so much pain because of me wanting to fix everything. And the reality is, as we all know, we cannot fix something that isn't ours. The only thing we can fix is ourselves and our perspective and the way that we handle situations. But it wasn't just within that battle, it was everything. It was wanting to be a pleaser in my high school and for everyone to like me. And if I said something wrong, then I would beat myself up over it. I've talked about previously on my podcast how I would lay in bed at night and just like beat myself up about the fact that I maybe said one wrong word. And the reality is, I can see that now, I was the nicest girl in school. Like, if I did something, which I for sure did, to piss someone off, it was never intentional, right? Like, I always had the intention was always good. But we can't walk around this world and not trigger someone, like, because us triggering someone else is never really our fault. It's something that happens within them. We can say the exact same thing to two different people, and one person can take it as a negative thing depending on what triggers them, their life story, all of that. Well, what I know is that I was an incredible kid, but I would just beat myself up over these like little things that I could have done better. I could have said better. I could have been nicer. So just looking back at all of these journals, the massive pain I was going through during these years, and if you could relate to any of the things that I just mentioned as to being a people pleaser, hard on yourself, beating yourself up, there are many things that I have done to improve a lot on this. And I'm hoping that is something that you could set the intention to try to do as well. How we speak to ourselves is so important. I have used affirmations as to, I love myself. Look yourself in the mirror, tell yourself, Pernilla, I love yourself. Insert your own name, of course. Don't say Pernilla unless that's your name. Writing down in your journal why you are a beautiful human. Remind yourself of the daily actions you take, the intentions you have, the good things you have done in this world to really start developing this like self-love relationship with yourself. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone. If you're too scared of doing something, tell yourself, no, I can do this. Because when we do things that we don't feel like, that we're scared of, we tend to build a new level of confidence, which I feel is very useful as well to all these like wanting to please other people. Because when we build confidence, when we build a deep relationship with ourselves, when we love ourselves, when we know we're good enough, we no longer have to prove that to other people because we know it within and we know who we are. There's no longer this need to prove it to other people. It's beautiful when we have these little realizations as to, oh, wow, maybe I didn't get the outcome of this conversation, but I really tried my best to be loving and be my best self. And I know my intention was good. And even though this other person maybe didn't take it in the way that I would have wished for, I know that I did my best. And maybe sometimes we don't do our best, we make a mistake, but then it's about loving ourselves and knowing so much that we made a mistake and then we can apologize to the other person, or just having understanding for us having days off where maybe we're not our best selves. And if we love and understand that about ourselves, then instead of beating ourselves up, we will treat ourselves with love and compassion, at least when we remind ourselves of that. Because I think it's a constant learning lesson curve to, well, really just be loving towards yourself and not living a life for others, but living a life that feels good to yourself. I feel like I'm going on a tangent here. I don't think this was even... Oh, yes. Because also when we build this loving relationship to ourselves, then we will dare more take the actions that we know are right for us rather than what others think are right for us. And I'm really just always learning and getting better in this field. And that's just why I wanted to share it with you, because I feel like it's like these little incremental steps throughout my journey that have helped me live this life that I get to live today. And I'm still developing and creating so that it becomes even more aligned and fulfilling and hopefully useful to other people as well, who the people that I want to impact in my life. But if I'd continued to allow me to live my life as to how other people perceive me or how I thought other people were perceiving me, then I would never have taken the steps that I have taken. I would have definitely stayed in Denmark, also because my family obviously wanted me to stay in Denmark, right? Like they of course wanted to be with me, but they today, I believe, understand why I had to come here. And I believe they see the joy that I experience every day in my life and how happy I am. And so just not living our life for others and doing the things that we think other people want for ourselves, that other people want for us, is just so important. And maybe they'll never understand, but that's okay because you understand and you are going to impact people on the way when you dare take the steps that feel aligned to you and create a life where you dare to take those steps. And you'll create a life that is far beyond what you thought was ever possible if you just one step at a time take these action steps towards aligning what you want for you. And I really think that these 5 reminders that I got today, which let's do a little recap so that hopefully that sets a fire in your butt when you're done listening to this episode to maybe just reflect on some of these things. The first one was going back to see how far you've come instead of living this automated life that you've now gotten used to. Really set the intention really and really remind yourself of how far you've come, where you used to be, and how cool and badass you are to have created this reality that you get to live today, but also so that it re-sparks, re-motivates you to know that this new thing, it may not be in the time frame that you want it to be, but it's happening because you were always taken care of in that way. You always made it happen in that way. And this time is no different. The second one was this idea of how every single time in my life, I have stepped outside of my norm, challenged my norm, done something I've never done before, that is what has created this massive shift in my life because it shifted me within and that completely shifted my external world. And it's these little bits of action steps of doing things that I'd never done before that throughout these last 10 years have led me to where I am today. I don't know what feels right to you today, what your intuition has been telling you that you need to try, just give a shot at, that you need to set into action today. Go out and do. Because when I started doing those things, I never knew what was waiting for me at the other side. Just like whenever you've tried something new, you had no clue what was waiting for you on the other side. So just do it because it could be freaking life-changing. The third one was take time for your mind. Take time to go for walks. Take time to meditate, to do your morning routine. Let go of that phone. Go into nature. Dance. Do something so that you create this like space in your mind that's just free so that anything, your intuition, the universal intelligence God has been trying to tell you, that you can step into that you can get those nudges and those new perspectives, ideas, allow your way, allow them to come to you. The fourth one is to remember to set goals because they somehow end up happening. If of course you remind yourself of that goal, but like set goals. If you do not know where you're headed, you're most likely not really going to head anywhere. If you know where you're headed and you're determined and you're focused, one way or another, you're going to get there eventually. Maybe not on your specific timeline, but if you continue the process, continue reminding yourself of that goal, somehow it's going to come to life. If you, of course, take action on it as well. And the fifth was to not live your life for others. Build a connection to yourself, a self-belief, a self-confidence so strong that you dare to live your life for you and not to make other people proud, other people happy, but instead make yourself happy. Because when you make yourself happy, you will automatically be spreading more light in this world. Of course, when you change, it can be challenging for people in your closest surroundings to experience that because you are no longer the person that maybe matched their energy, what they wanted for you to be. But first of all, you don't want to live a life where you're not happy, right? Because then you can't make anyone else happy really either. But also, you only have one life. You got to live it for you. And I just think that automatically when you live your life for you, much greater things happen for both you, but also the rest of the world when you dare to be you. So stop beating yourself up. Build a really strong connection with yourself by pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, connecting with yourself, giving yourself so much self-love, affirmations, and whatever you feel. I've made episodes on this in the past where on like how to build this like self-love with yourself, which maybe you should go back and listen to as we are ending this podcast episode. But before we end, I just quickly want to mention that I am doing an October Transformational challenge that I am very, very excited about, because it's not, well, really, it's whatever you want it to be, because I have incorporated so many tools. You will be given a daily workout that is going to push you, challenge you, and I'm sending you a guide as well where you will learn everything that comes to how to calculate your macros or develop this better relationship with food and create food ritual habits that align with what you want deep down for your life long term. The workouts are going to be able to be personalized. So regardless of what fitness level you're at, you'll be able to make the changes that you need for your body, for your specific goals. But every single week, we're going to be jumping on a call where we get to chat about things like what I chatted about today, anything life, fitness, well, anything related, we'll be able to chat together with on these meetings. There's going to be a morning routine and a journaling challenge, and I guide you through how you can create a morning routine that works specifically for you. Maybe you only have 5 minutes in the morning because you are busy gal, but creating a 5-minute ritual that really works for you. I guide you through that within the program, and like everything that we're going to be chatting about, everything that I send you, the documents I send you, but also throughout the chats, throughout the community where the few people that decide to join this challenge will be put in a community where we can support, encourage, and keep each other accountable for the intentions that we set by the beginning of the month. This starts on October 1st, and I'm really excited. It's been a while since I've done one of these challenges, but it's so powerful doing them and seeing the changes that it has made in both my own life, but also the people that have joined a challenge like that in the past. It's just so beautiful, because when you have both all the knowledge you need in order to succeed, which you set your goals in the beginning of the challenge, you figure out what's the most important thing for me that I want to get out of this month. And for some people, it may be like getting in the best shape of your life. So that means let's really get clear on what does your nutrition and your workout program need to look like in order for you to do that. For other people, it's like building this really self-loving connection with yourself, and the morning routine and the journaling and the every single day getting outside into nature, connecting with yourself. That's the main focus. And for other people, it's just creating a few habits in their life that actually end up making every single day a lot better, and getting into this new space, this new energy. And it's different for every person what they want out of the challenge, but it's important for me that every single person that joins get out of the challenge exactly what it is that they want, and that this community that we have, as well as the chats that we have weekly, help us really succeed within this month and moving forward. Because I am trying to set up these challenges so that it's like this boost of knowledge, motivation, focus on what it is that we want, and then afterwards that it's like it can be this continuous progress, that now that you've developed these habits, these rituals in your life, now you can continue doing them. And I mean, maybe we'll do another challenge after that, but at least like being set up for success for the rest of the year, because the reality is we have 3 months left at this point, a little bit more, but 3 months left. And these 3 months can help us either end off this year very strong, maybe stronger than ever, or we can stay where we've been, for a while, depending on whether or not you've been really crushing your goals or not. But yeah, so I'm very excited about that. I'll put the link in the first comment in the episode description. I hope that you found something I shared in this long ramble today useful. And just so you know, if you have been enjoying this episode, writing a review is what helps me reach more people on this platform. It's very hard to build a podcast. I think everyone listening is coming from either my Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok, but actually, like, building an audience on my podcast is challenging. But you writing a review or giving me some stars or sharing with a friend or on social media, it means so much to me. If you found it useful, of course, because I hope that the people listening find it valuable and that it somehow helps your life. And if it has helped your life, maybe it could help out another person's life as well. So I would really crazily appreciate that. But I am grateful that you were just even here listening today. And I hope you go out there today and have the most beautiful day, that you remind yourself of how incredible of a human you are, and maybe dig into some of the reflections points that I shared today. Because remember that in order for us to grow, we have to challenge our norm.